Hello YouTube, it's the Break Duelist, Reese Wilson here. Today we're going to be doing a Cyberse deck profile, and without further ado, let's jump straight into it. This will be post Flames of Destruction, just so that we're clear here. We're going to go ahead and start things off with the triple Draconet. Obviously for the Draconet play involving the Tron engine, which you guys will see here in just a moment. The effect is when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 2 or lower directly from your deck, then it must be a Cyberse monster. It's a level 3 dark type Cyberse monster who's generally good to go ahead and start off your compilation plays to be able to get into Link 2s or even Link 3 Link monsters without any problems. Next up, we will be doing 3 copies of Bitron, and the reason why is because you'll be able to use it for Draconet plays. It does fall within the level 2 or 1 category because it must be 2 or lower for the Draconet play. That is a normal monster, so you can also use this to go into cards like Link Spider, as well as be used as link material for a free special summon off of Draconet. Next up, we will be doing 1 copy of Digitron. A lot of people are playing this at 2, but given the recent release of Flames of Destruction, we're actually changing it up a little bit because there's more plays that can be done with the extra deck, where it's only needed at 1 for the Digitron. Next up will be 1 copy of Prototron, which is from Flames of Destruction. It's a level 1 Tron monster that is normal, so again you can use it for Link Spider as well as going off of the Draconet plays. But you also can use this for one other deck, which you guys will see in the extra deck, which is going to be Link Rebo. This card's kind of really good with being able to make plays repetitively, having Link Rebo on board to go in your bigger Link monsters. We'll have a future video that will show more about that as time goes on with the channel. Next up, we have 1 copy of Bit Trooper. What this card is for is you can go ahead and choose 1 level 2 or lower monster, or no, discard 1 level 2 or lower, discard 1 level 2 or lower monster from your hand to special summon this card. This is in case you run out of like reasons that you need to go into your Draconet plays, like say you successfully got it off 1 or 2 times, and you just happen to have excess material. The reason why you're playing the 3 of the Bitron, the 1 Digitron, and then the 1 Prototron is in case you have an excess monster that you don't need there. You can go ahead and make plays into this. It gives you a level 4 Earth type monster with pretty decent stats, 1500 attack and 2000 butt, so making it a little bit harder to get over to start out of the gate. Next up, we will be playing the Cloudier or Ram engine. Of course, it's going to be the 2 Ram Cloudier and then 1 Ram Claudia. This is pretty straightforward. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the tutorials for it, but in short, this guy goes in and gets you special summons because it contributed itself to grab something engraved, and this one requires you to use a normal summon for it. But the reason why you do want this in some situations is because in some situations you special summon a ridiculous amount and you don't want to just waste a turn without getting off a normal summon. Next up, we are playing the double Link Slayer. Some people are playing this at 3. I believe that it needs to only be at 2, and the reason being is being able to get the free drop after like a board wipe is great, but you're not going to see that every turn. 2 is a little bit more balanced, and in addition to that, it does allow you to go ahead and get that piercing damage off for the effect, which reads, if you control no salvation monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand once per turn you can discard 2 cards and then target that many spells and traps on the field and destroy them. So it's kind of like your Twin Twisters, but as a built-in Cyberse monster. Next we are playing a double boot staggered, and the reason behind this is so that you can destroy a monster and be able to get a token off of it. It also does have a special summoning condition, which is when a Cyberse monster is normal summon your field, you can special summon this card from your hand, so it does special summon itself, which is truly amazing. It is a level 5 monster whose attack is 2300, 500 defense. It's a light type, and it's just good to be able to get extra tokens to be able to go into bigger link monsters. Next up, a new card from Flames of Destruction is actually going to be Link Streamer. Playing this at 2. I was meddling around with it for a little bit to put it at 3, but it belongs pretty comfortably at 2. The effect of this card is that when a Cyberse monster is normal or special summon your field, while this card's on the field except during the damage step, you can special summon a data token, Cyberse Light level 1, attack 0 and defense 0. You can use each effect of Link Streamer once per turn. This will help extend your combos going into Link Karibo, as well as because these are seen as normal monsters, it will give you more material for things such as Link Spider and just excess tokens to go into other Link monsters that don't specify you can't use tokens. This card really helps the Link Karibo combos go off though. Next up we have a level 1 Dotscaper. Is arguably one of the best main deck monsters in the game as far as Cyberse is concerned. He can special summon himself once per turn from grave because you control Cyberse monster, and then if you were to banish this card, you get to actually special summon it once per duel, which is absolutely amazing. You can use each effect once per duel. So it's like a double special summon off this one card just because it went to grave once and then once because it was banished. Next up, you've got one copy of Link Infiltrator, which just says that if you control a Cyberse monster that is a Link monster, you can special summon this from your hand to a Link zone or an unoccupied zone that a Link monster points to. So it's just a free extra summon for after you get into a Link monster. Next you got one copy of Balancer Lord. This card was previously at 3, but with our Link Streamer coming out in Flames of Destruction, it's only necessary to play this at 1. What this card does is you can normal summon it, and then by its effect you can pay 1,000 life points to normal summon in addition once per turn for an extra normal summon. And then in addition to that, it does say that it has to be a 4 or lower directly from your hand on that summon. Next up is one copy of Backup Secretary, which says that if you control a Cyberse monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only do it once per turn this way. Next up is the last and final main deck monster from Flames of Destruction. It is Backup Operator. His card art's actually pretty wonderful. It's like the upgraded version of Backup Secretary. She's obviously a Cyberse monster who's level 3 in light, and her effect reads, you can target one face-up monster that a Link monster you control points to, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return that monster to the hand. You can special summon this card, special summon this way, banish this card when it leaves the field. You can use each effect of Backup Operator once per turn. That is it for the main deck monsters. Now we're going to jump straight into the spells of the deck. Starting things off with a 3 of, it's a absolute must to be playing Cyberse. If you're not playing 3 of this card, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Is going to be Signet Backdoor, which does come in the original structure decks as the super rares. They're very wonderful looking. The card is a spell speed 2 quick effect that says target a Cyberse monster you control, banish it, and if you do, add one Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand whose attack is lower than that monster's original attack. During the next standby phase, return that banished monster by this effect to the field, and it can attack directly that turn. You can use each effect to assign it backdoor once per turn. Next is going to be 3 copies of Mind Control. This card is basically steal your opponent's monster and then link summon over it. So this helps get rid of problematic cards like Saryuja. Some cards even like Decode, depending on if it's already used its effect. If this card can really actually help you steal into some problematic cards and just give you a bigger board. Next up is 2 copies of Golden Sarcophagus. What this card lets you do is you get to select one monster from your main deck, banish it face up, and then during your second standby phase, you get to add that target to your hand. This is more commonly with this build used for your Draconet play. If you haven't drawn into your Draconet, you're usually going to banish your Draconet so that you can go ahead on your second standby phase, get it to your hand, normal summon it, and obviously go off the Draconet play. You can use this for other cards, but it's just more commonly associated with the Draconet play. Next up, we are playing 2 copies of Security Block, which does say that if you have a Cyberse monster, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. It's just basically keep a monster on board. And also, I do believe if a monster's attacked, you still do take the damage calculation. However, your monster's still there at the end of the turn. And we are playing 1 copy of Column Switch. The reason behind this is because it will help you deal a little bit with Mech Knights and decks like Bullets that focus on having cards within the same column, so it's always good to be able to, disrupt plays. There's also supposed to be 2. Next up is going to be Shuffle Reborn, 2 copies of this card. The reason being is because its effect reads, if you control no monsters, target a monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it has its effects negated. Also banish it during the end phase. And then you can you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 card you control, shuffle it to the deck, and then draw 1 card. Also during the end phase this turn, banish 1 card from your hand. You can use each effect once per turn. What this is meant for is to help you just kind of mill through a little bit, get rid of cards that maybe aren't so useful to you during that turn, and possibly get you into something that's a little bit more useful by adding an extra draw. Of course, everybody wants to play at least 1 copy of Scapegoat, just simply because it gives you free link 4, depending on the summoning requirements. In this case, we'll be using this specifically for Firewall Dragon, who is built into the Cyberse archetype. It's absolutely wonderful. And just for show and tell, we do actually have a couple of Cyberse themed tokens using Parallel Port, Cyberse Beacon, Iverstorm, and I believe this one was Driver as super rares, which are wonderful. We will be playing 1 copy of Soul Charge because Soul Charge gives you a free board, and this card helps you win games. It does cost you 1,000 life points per special summon from the graveyard, and you do need to keep in mind you do not get to conduct your battle phase the turn that you activate that card. Next up is 1 copy of Dark Hole, and the reason why is to help eliminate boards that may be problematic. Granted, there are quick effects that will negate this, but at the very least you'll be able to make them use their one-time negation. We are playing 1 copy of One-Time Passcode. What this card does is it gives you a Cyberse Light level 4, 2000 attack, 2000 defense token that can only be activated once per turn. You only want to play one of this card because it's not necessary. It's just a free token that has pretty decent stats, and it'll help you get into cards like Link Spider. We are playing the one Regeki because it is limited to one. We'd play more if you could, but just a free board wipe for your opponent. And for the final spell of the deck, it's actually going to be Cyberse Cyclone. This card came out in Flames of Destruction, and it's a spell speed 2 whose effect reads: you can target one link monster your opponent controls, banish one card from your graveyard with the same link rating as that monster, and if you do, destroy that monster. And if the original type of the monster that you banished was Cyberse, then destroy one face-up card in your opponent's spell and trap zone. So it's kind of like an MST that destroys a face-up in their back row. That can be kind of annoying. And then in addition to that, you get a special, or by banishing a Cyberse monster, you can destroy a link monster that they control as long as it's the same link rating, which is nice. Helps get rid of cards like Saraguja, and it just makes life a little bit easier to deal with like link 4s or even link 3s that are potentially problematic. Next, we will be going into the traps of the deck. And to start things off, we will be doing 3 copies of Parallel Port Armor. It's a quick trap that says, or that you can activate on your opponent's turn, especially during the battle phase. Says that you equip it to a Cyberse monster. I do believe that it has to be a link monster that you control. And what it does is makes it so that it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. And also you take no damage from battles that are there with that. You can also banish this card and 2 link monsters from a graveyard and target one link monster you control, and it can make a second attack during the battle phase, which is really awesome. It just gives you an extra swing once per turn, which is absolutely wonderful. You want to play it at 3 because this deck is link heavy. Next up, we will be playing 2 Solemn Strikes, and the reason being is because negating the effects of spells and or traps, or sorry, not spells and or traps, effects of monsters is absolutely wonderful, and also being able to negate the summon can help you build a good defense against your opponent's boards. We will be playing 1 copy of Recoded Alive, which does specify that you can target a Link 3 Cyberse link monster that you control, or that is in your graveyard, and banish it. And if you do, special summon 1 Code Talker from your extra deck. If you control no monsters in the extra monster zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished Code Talker monsters and special summon it. This is basically to help you get into your Code Talker monsters by banishing a Link 3 Cyberse monster or higher. And then in addition to that, if you control none, you can banish a Code Talker or banish this card to get one of your banished Code Talkers back to your main monster zone, which is nice. We are playing 1 copy of Eternal Tribute because blowing up boards is really good. Board wipes are not as relevant anymore as they used to be, but they're still good to have to be able to clear out problematic cards. We will be playing 1 copy of Bottomless Trap Hole, which says if a monster with 1500 or more attack is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, banish that target. And we will be playing 1 copy of Cyberse Beacon, which does read: if you took damage by battle by an opponent's card effect this turn, you can add a level 4 lower Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand, and you can activate 1 Cyberse Beacon per turn. Usually you're going to chain this so that you can go ahead and get into your Draconet, so that you can go ahead and get off the Draconet plays. And finally, a new card from Flames of Destruction is called Limit Code. This card is absolutely amazing. I wish that we could play it more than once per duel, but by the card's effect it does specify you can only play it once per duel. And the effect reads, if you have any Cyberse Link monsters in your graveyard, place one counter on this card for each of those monsters, and if you do, special summon one Code Talker from your extra deck and equip it with this card. When this card leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster once per turn. During your end phase, remove one counter from this card, and if you cannot destroy it, you can only activate limit code once per duel. What this does is it says if you have any Link or any Cyberse monsters in your graveyard, you get to go ahead and add a ridiculous amount of counters to this card, depending on how early or how late the game is, and then you get special summon a Code Talker off of this card, which is absolutely great. And then every turn that goes by, you have to remove a counter. If you can't, destroy this card, and if this card leaves the field, then you destroy the monster. It's basically like a specialized version of Call of Haunted specifically for Code Talkers, which is great. Now finally going into the extra deck, of course this is a preference extra deck, just as the main deck was too. Feel free to go ahead and put in the comment section below what you guys think about this specific build of Cyberse. But furthermore, going into the extra deck, we will be starting things off with one copy of Link Spider, because we are playing the Tron engine and this deck to go along with the Draconet set. This just requires one normal monster to be able to go ahead and get into him, and he is a Link 1 rating Cyberse monster with 1000 attack, and obviously no defense. Next up is going to be one copy of Link Karibo. This is also a Link 1 Cyberse monster whose requirement is one level 1 monster. And when this opponent, or the effect reads, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you contribute this card, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0 until the end of the turn. If this card's in your graveyard, quick effect, you contribute one level 1, special summon this card, and you can use each effect once per turn. This card is great because of being able to special summon itself, give you a free Link monster, and then in addition to that, go ahead and drop a problematic high swinger to 0. Next up is going to be one copy of Space Insulator. This came out in Flames of Destruction, and it requires just generically 2 monsters. The effect is monsters this card points to lose 800 attack and defense when a Cyberse Link monster is summoned to your field while this card's in your graveyard except the turn it was sent there. You can special summon this card, special summon this card to that zone the monster points to, but it cannot be used as Link material. Also banish it when it leaves the field. It's actually kind of really nice to be able to have as just an extra body on board. It does have 1200 attack, which is kind of decent. Next up, we do have one copy of Proxy Dragon, which is a 1400 attack Link 2 rating monster, whose effect does read, if this card you control would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can destroy one of your monsters this card points to instead. And it is, of course, a Link 2 Cyberse monster who's just generically two monsters. Next up is one copy of Flame Administrator, which is a Link 2 Cyberse monster who just requires 2 Cyberse monsters, and his effect reads, all Link monsters you control gain 800 attack, and you can only control one Flame Administrator. Next up is one copy of Recovery Sorceress, who is a Link 2 Cyberse monster who just requires 2 Cyberse monsters. She does have a quick effect, which is you can target a Cyberse monster in your graveyard that was destroyed this turn, special summon it, and it has its effects negated, also destroy it during the end phase, and you can only use each effect of Recovery Sorceress once per turn. Next up, we have one copy of Binary Sorceress, who did come out in the original Link structure deck. Her requirements are 2 monsters except for tokens, and the effect reads, this card gains these effects based on the based on the number of co-link cards to this card. The first one is, when a monster's co-link to this card battles an opponent's monster and inflicts battle damage to them, you gain that much life points. And once per turn, quick effect, you can target 2 face-up monsters you control until the end of this turn, have the attack of the first monster. If you do, add the attack lost to the other monster. So it just lets you move attack from one monster to the other by cutting one in half. Next up is one copy of Honeybot. Again, came out in the original Link structure deck. And the effect says neither player can target monsters discard points to a card effects, and those monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Next up we have one copy of Trigate Wizard, which is our first Link 3 of the deck, whose requirements are just 2 monsters except for tokens, and it gains effects based on the number of co-linked cards to this monster. 1, if a co-linked card battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage inflicts to your opponent is doubled. 2, once per turn you can target one card on the field and banish it. And 3, once per turn when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. Has 2200 attack, and like I said, is a Cyberse Link 3, first one of this profile. Next one, this card came from Extreme Force. It's a signature card. Is going to be Xcode Talker, which just has absolutely amazing art. It is a Link 3 monster that has 2300 attack, and it says when this card is Link summoned, you can choose an unused main monster zone equal to the number of monsters currently in the extra monster zones. Those zones cannot be used while this card's face up on the field, and you can use each effect of Xcode Talker once per turn. Monsters this card points to gain 500. Also, they cannot be destroyed by card effects. It's kind of nice to be able to help protect the extra monsters that are linked to this card. Next up, we do have one copy of Encode Talker, who is a 2300 attack Link 3 swinger, which requires just 2 Cyberse monsters, the same as Xcode Talker. And the effect reads once per turn before damage calculation of a monster. This points to battles an opponent's monster with a higher attack. Then you can make that monster unable to be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from that battle after damage calculation. Have this card or one monster points to gain attack equal to that of the opponent's monster battled until the end of this turn. Next up, we will be playing 2 copies of Decode Talker as a Link 3 signature Link monster from the original structure deck, whose effect whose summoning requirements is 2 effect monsters with 2300 attack, and its effect reads it gains 500 for each monster it points to, and when an opponent's monster activates a card or card targets this card you control, quick effect, you can tribute 1 monster this card points to, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. I do apologize, I do not have the ultimate versions of this card. I really wish that I was able to go ahead and get that for this profile, but unfortunately I just do have the link pack editions of this card currently. Next up, we do have one Vector Scare Archfiend. This card is really good to help you get over this 2300 Cyberse monsters that people have been using generically, such as Decode. It is a 2400 attack Link 3 Cyberse monster who requires just 2 Cyberse monsters, and it says when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you contribute 1 monster's card points to, just special summon the destroyed monster to any any zone this card points to, and if you do, special summon opponents and if you do special summon to your opponent's filled by this effect, this card can make a second attack during the battle phase, although your opponent gains control of the special summon monster. And finally, to end the deck profile, we do have one copy of Firewall Dragon, which is currently limited to 1 with the current ban list. Is the only Link 4 for this specific profile, and its requirements is just 2 plus monsters. So this could be tokens. You can get this with Scapegoat. You can get it with actually meeting, the double link rating, so 2 Link 2s, or you can get the 4 monsters on board to be able to get it for its summoning requirements. Its arrows do point up, down, and horizontal. And the effect says once while face up on the field, quick effect, you can target monsters on the field or in a graveyard up to the number of monsters go linked to this card, return them to the hand, and if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle and sent to your graveyard, you special summon one monster from your hand. It's arguably the most broken link monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! Currently as far as links go, but feel free to tell me more about that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for going ahead and joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you guys in future episodes. Have a wonderful day, be blessed, and you guys rock.